Because afternoon tea started in England, it can be fun if you're in the States to include an authentic recipe from the UK on your afternoon tea menu. But have you ever read through the ingredients and wondered, what does that mean? Hello and welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I'm Sonia and I'm very happy you've stopped by. What's that old saying? England and America are two countries separated by a common language? That can be delightfully so. Certainly when it comes to baking, our differences are apparent in more than just ounces versus grams. Thankfully, many recipes today, especially those online, include metric measures alongside our customary ones, or it's certainly easy enough to find a conversion chart online. But sometimes it's not just our units of measure, but the terminology in a recipe that can be confusing and potentially impact a recipe's outcome. For example, here in the US, we have what's known as self-rising flour. In the UK, it's called self-raising flour. But it must be the same, right? Raise, rise. No, they both contain flour and baking powder, but the US version also contains salt. The UK version typically does not. If you don't know that, and along with your American self-rising flour, you add salt because it's called for in the English recipe you're using, you might regret it. Another item commonly found in British baking recipes is castor sugar. Now, icing sugar is the same as what's called powdered or confectioner's sugar here in the States, but castor sugar is not equal to our granulated sugar. Now, it's close. We can usually substitute regular granulated sugar in most recipes that call for castor sugar, but our granulated sugar is a much coarser grain, so it's not going to incorporate or dissolve as quickly or easily as castor sugar would or is meant to in those British recipes. Now, the closest item here in the US would be superfine or extra fine sugar, but that can be hard to find here, except in specialty stores. You can luckily make your own by putting granulated sugar in a spice grinder or food processor if you need a lot of it, and pulse grind it a little at a time. Just don't overdo it. You don't want it turning into powdered sugar, which it could do. In a recent video, I showed you how to make lemonade scones, but if you ask for lemonade in the US, you will get a refreshing summertime drink made with water, lemon juice, and lots of sugar. But in the UK, Australia, and New Zealand, lemonade is a fizzy citrus-flavored drink akin to our 7-Up or Sprite. If you put American lemonade in a lemonade scone mix, you will not be happy with the outcome. Also in the US, a liquid measuring cup is 8 fluid ounces. 2 cups is a pint. So a pint is 16 fluid ounces, right? Right. Here in the US, not in the UK. In the UK, a pint is 20 ounces. What they call a pint has 4 ounces more than ours. Now, will you be making something for afternoon tea that calls for a pint of anything? Probably not, unless you're making something for a large group. But you might find an English recipe that calls for half a pint. And if that's the case, you'll need 10 ounces of liquid, not 8. Finally, if you're going to bake using recipes from other countries, and even if you're not, I highly encourage you to get a kitchen scale that gives both ounces and grams. Now, this is my favorite that I've had for years. It's a salter, but there are a bunch out there, and I will put a link for some in the description box. I find weighing ingredients so much more accurate in baking than measuring by volume or cups. For example, if you measure flour by the scoop and sweep method, that is dipping the cup in the flour container and leveling it off, but the recipe writer intended for you to lightly spoon flour into the cup to measure it, you will have too much flour in that recipe, and it will impact the outcome, or it certainly could. If you know how much flour goes into the recipe by weight, that amount will always be accurate. And there you have it. You can absolutely borrow and bake using recipes from the UK or other countries, but it's important to remember our ingredients and our measurements are not always identical. If you know that going in, your afternoon tea cakes, desserts, and scones will have the best chance of success. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, hit that like button and give it a thumbs up, and consider subscribing for more afternoon tea videos. Until next time, Bye-bye.